The ground beneath California is moving right now. Today, but nobody can feel it. There is no shaking, no rattling, no distant roar. It is a silent displacement happening deep inside the Earth's crust. This is not a theory. This is not a model. This is the measured, documented reality as of July 2026, uncovered, because scientists finally taught an artificial intelligence how to listen. For decades, we believed we understood the San Andreas Fault. It was either locked, building stress toward a violent snap, or it was creeping, sliding harmlessly past itself. But now we know there is a third state, a hidden state of movement. 982 distinct events of the ground slowly, quietly shifting beneath one of the most monitored sections of fault line on the planet. Events that went completely unnoticed for years, buried in the noise. Not a massive rupture, not a harmless creep. Something else. The question is, what does it mean when a monster we thought was sleeping is actually stirring in the dark? The San Andreas Fault is an 800-mile scar carved across the state of California. It is the primary boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate, two colossal pieces of the Earth's surface locked in a relentless, slow-motion collision. For more than a century, we have studied it, mapped it, and feared it. One small town, Parkfield, population 37, sits directly on top of a transition zone of the fault. It became so famous for its regular earthquakes that seismologists dubbed it the earthquake capital of the world, wiring it with more sensors per square inch than almost anywhere else on Earth. They were watching for the big, obvious movements, the sudden jolts, the characteristic magnitude 6.0 quakes that seemed to happen, for a time, with almost clockwork regularity. They occurred in 1857, 1881, 1901, 1922, 1934, and 1966. An average of 22 years apart. A predictable pattern, a natural laboratory. But then, the pattern broke. The quake expected around 1988 didn't arrive until 2004. And now, as of 2026, it has been 22 years since that last event. The historical clock has reset, and the scientific world is watching. But they were all watching for a shake. They were listening for a bang. Dr. Zara Zali, a geophysicist at the GFZ Helmholtz Center in Potsdam, Germany, decided to listen for a whisper. Her team took years of continuous strain meter data, the subtle measurements of the Earth's crust being stretched or compressed, and fed it to a deep learning algorithm. They were hunting for something called slow slip events, or SSEs. These are earthquakes in extreme slow motion. The fault moves, the stress is released, but it happens over hours, or even days, so gradually that it generates no seismic waves, no shaking, no noise, just a subtle, almost imperceptible deformation of the rock. It was a signal so faint it had always been dismissed as background noise, but the AI learned to see the pattern. It found them, 982 of them, hidden between 2009 and 2016. The locked section of the San Andreas wasn't locked at all. It was breathing. As Dr. Zali put it, artificial intelligence enabled us to recognize their patterns, which would otherwise have gone unnoticed. The fault was moving in ways we never knew, releasing stress in tiny, silent bursts. The discovery, published in July 2026, fundamentally changed our picture of the fault's behavior. The immediate question was terrifying. Do these silent slips make a large earthquake more or less likely? Do they act as a safety valve, bleeding off pressure? Or do they perturb the crust, transferring stress to other segments and pushing them closer to a catastrophic failure? The science is not yet settled. But one thing is now certain. Our most famous fault has a secret life. And we have only just begun to understand its language. The silence at Parkfield is deeply unsettling. But 300 miles north, another fault is screaming a warning. It is not subtle. It is not hidden in data. It is a simple, brutal calculation. This is the Hayward Fault. It is a 74-mile-long strike-slip fault that runs directly through the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area, directly through Oakland, Berkeley, Hayward, and Fremont. 2 million people live directly on top of it. In many places, its presence is visible. Curbs are offset, cracked in the middle, with one side of the street having slid several inches past the other. It is a phenomenon called a seismic creep, a constant, slow drag of about 5 millimeters per year, a physical reminder of the forces at work. But the Hayward Fault does not just creep, it ruptures. Violently, historically, it unleashes a major earthquake roughly every 140 years. Its last massive rupture was on October 21st, 1868. At the time, they called it the Great San Francisco Earthquake, a title it held until the 1906 event eclipsed it. The 1868 quake was an estimated magnitude 7.0, a city-shattering event that leveled buildings in the still young towns of the East Bay. We are now 158 years past that date, 18 years beyond the historical average. The fault is not just on time, it is late. Statistically, it is operating on borrowed time. The Uniform California Earthquake Rupture Forecast gives a 72% probability of a magnitude 6.7 or greater earthquake striking the Bay Area before 2043. The Hayward Fault is considered a prime candidate for that rupture. It is, by many metrics, the single most dangerous urban fault in the United States. Not because of its potential size, but because of its location. It is a loaded weapon pointed directly at the heart of a densely populated, economically vital region. And the danger is not just the shaking. The danger is the ground itself. In a series of groundbreaking simulations published in mid-2026, seismologists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory unveiled a terrifying new picture of what a Hayward rupture would actually look like. Led by Dr. Arben Pitarka, the team used the Department of Energy's exascale supercomputers, some of the most powerful computational engines on the planet, to generate 50 different, highly realistic simulations of a magnitude 7.0 event. What they found confirmed a long-held fear. The damage will not be uniform. The Earth beneath the Bay Area will actively conspire to make things worse. Geological features like the Livermore Valley or San Pablo Bay are what is known as sedimentary basins. They are depressions in the bedrock filled with softer, looser soil and rock. They are like bowls of jelly sitting on a countertop. When seismic waves from a deep rupture travel through solid bedrock, they move quickly, but when they enter these soft basins, they slow down and amplify. They get trapped. Dr. Pitarka explained it simply. When the waves come into the soft sediments, they convert into larger motion and they remain trapped. Instead of passing through, the kinetic energy bounces back and forth, reverberating, prolonging the shaking and increasing its intensity by as much as 50% or more. A building in one of these basins won't just experience the initial quake. It will be subjected to a prolonged, amplified attack long after the fault has stopped moving. The simulations showed that the shape of the hills and valleys, the very topography of the East Bay, will channel and focus seismic energy in ways older models never captured. Some neighborhoods will be hit with an intensity far greater than their distance from the fault would suggest. It is not just about where the fault is, it is about the ground you are standing on when it breaks. The Hayward Fault is a ticking clock, and the 2026 simulations just told us the explosion will be bigger than we thought. But California's dangers are not isolated. The state is a system, a complex network of interconnected tectonic plates where stress on one fault can be transferred to another hundreds of miles away. And right now, the greatest stress in the entire system is building at a place some have called an earthquake gate. It is a choke point, a junction, and if it gives way, it could unleash a quake larger than anything modern California has ever seen. This is the southern end of the San Andreas Fault. It has not had a major rupture since the Great Fort Tejon earthquake on January 9, 1857. That magnitude 7.9 event tore the ground apart for over 200 miles. For more than 169 years, that southern section has been accumulating stress, locked and loading. In June of 2026, an international research team led by Dr. Lillian Burkard dropped a bombshell. Her team, affiliated with the University of Bern and the University of Hawaii at NOAA, published a 4D earthquake cycle simulation, a model that looked back across 1,000 years of tectonic history. Their conclusion was stark. The tectonic stress at the junction of the southern San Andreas and the nearby San Jacinto fault system has now reached its highest level in the entire millennium, higher than in the year 1026, higher than during the Middle Ages, higher than at any point since. Dr. Burkhardt stated it plainly. Our results show that stress levels on multiple fault segments are now at or above the highest values seen in the past millennium. The focal point of this immense pressure is a place called Cajon Pass, a narrow mountain corridor separating the San Gabriel and San Bernardino mountains, right where the San Andreas and San Jacinto faults run nearly parallel to each other. Dr. Ross Stein, a seismologist and CEO of Temblor Inc., has described this pass as an earthquake gate. Sometimes a rupture racing down the San Andreas will stop at the pass. The gate holds. The earthquake is contained. But Dr. Burkhardt's study warns that if the stress disparity between the different fault segments gets too narrow, the gate can be forced open. A rupture on one fault could jump to the other, like a spark jumping a gap. It could become a single, catastrophic, through-going rupture. The numbers are precise. The model calculated the current Coulomb stress, a measure of shear and normal stress on a fault plane, at 3.6 megapascals on the San Jacinto Bernardino segment, its highest point in the entire 1,000-year simulation. 3.6 megapascals. To put that in terms that mean something, it is a pressure of over 520 pounds on every square inch of that fault surface. The rock is being squeezed to a degree it has not experienced in a millennium. If this gate opens, a single earthquake could tear through multiple fault systems, cascading southward and bringing unimaginable devastation to the dense urban corridor of Southern California. It redefines what the big one could even mean. Not a single event on a single fault, but a multi-fault firestorm unlocked by a 1,000-year pressure peak. This is the new reality of 2026. 3 distinct, terrifying threats, all maturing at the same time. In the north, a fault that is statistically overdue, primed to unleash amplified chaos upon millions. In the south, a fault system compressed with more tectonic stress than at any time in the last 1,000 years, coiled at a gate that could give way at any moment. And running through it all, the state's master fault, the San Andreas, moving in silent, mysterious ways that we are only just beginning to decipher with the help of artificial intelligence. We have more data than ever before. In October 2023, the Southern California Earthquake Center was officially expanded, becoming the statewide California Earthquake Center, reflecting this new, unified understanding of risk. We have exascale supercomputers capable of visualizing ruptures with terrifying clarity. We have AI that can pierce the noise and hear the planet's subtlest movements. And every single new piece of information points in the same direction. The risk is more complex, more interconnected, and more immediate than we ever believed. The old misconception was that prediction was the goal. Seismologists like Dr. Zolli are clear. While AI can detect hidden slips and help us understand stress buildup, short-term, precise prediction of the day and time of an earthquake remains scientifically impossible. The goal is not prediction. It is understanding. Understanding that sedimentary basins are energy traps. Understanding that stress can build for 1,000 years. Understanding that faults can jump their tracks. Understanding that the very ground beneath the 5th largest economy in the world is not a static, solid foundation. It is a living, breathing system. When you look at the evidence laid bare in 2026, the picture is profoundly humbling. The silent slips at Parkfield could be modulating stress across the central part of the state, subtly changing the math on when and where the next major rupture might begin. The pressure at Cajon Pass represents the ultimate worst-case scenario, a cascading failure that would dwarf any single historical event. And the grim. Ticking clock of the Hayward Fault serves as a constant reminder that for millions of people, this is not a theoretical discussion. It is a matter of when, not if. We thought of earthquakes as sudden, isolated acts of violence, a snap, a shake, and then it is over. But that is not the truth. The truth is that an earthquake is a process. It is the culmination of decades, centuries, even a millennium of silent pressure, slow deformation, and hidden movement. It is a story being written deep within the earth over immense timescales, and we are only seeing the final, violent sentence. The 92 slow slip events are not the prequel to a specific earthquake we can now time. They are chapters in a story we are just learning to read. The 6 megapascals of stress is not a countdown timer. It is a measurement of the story's rising tension. The 158 years of silence on the Hayward Fault is not a guarantee. It is a warning, written in the language of statistical probability, that the climax is approaching. We are listening to the Earth with tools our ancestors could not have imagined. Supercomputers that can model the planet. Artificial intelligence that can find a signal in a decade of noise. And what the Earth is telling us is that it is not on our schedule. The forces at play are ancient, immense, and utterly indifferent to the cities we have built on top of them. The ground is not dormant. It is not stable. It is alive. It is moving. And the old rules